Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Salter Family Sunday dinner on a Friday night. We're so glad that you've joined us, and we believe that at the end of the program, you will have heard something that will be beneficial to you. Greg is coming. He's going to introduce the concept and how this began.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Obviously, you don't see any food. We're not eating tonight, but Sunday dinner was really something that we came up based off of us coming together around 2005 and 2006. So during that time, we used to come together on a Sunday evening after church, after a full day, and we would just talk. We would talk about life. We would talk about business. We would talk about ministry. We would talk about sports. We would talk about politics. We would talk about everything. And that time together really became something that was, I would say, therapeutic. Wouldn't you guys say? Yes. Very much therapeutic to us. And it was just an opportunity for us to relate to one another and to build deeper bonds. That's really what Sunday dinner is all about. So although there is no food, we want to give you guys some soul food on a Friday night. Obviously, all of us are in the house together. Most of us around the country, definitely in Florida, are together on tonight. And so we want to make tonight about coming together. So this is what we want you to do. As we go through this discussion tonight, if you have questions, any questions that you want to ask related to family, things that are been pressing on your heart or based on the conversation that we're having, please put that in the feed. And as you put that in the feed, then we'll try to answer some questions before the end. And hopefully this is interactive and it's fun tonight. So we're glad you joined us. But before we really get into the meat of everything that we want to talk about tonight, we want to talk about how this all began, right? Absolutely. Yeah, we want to talk about how this all began. And so Mom is going to come and just talk about it, because our road, we want to say we weren't perfect, and we're not perfect, right? It was right. There was a lot of, there's been challenges along the way.
Been a little bumpy.
Yeah, been a little bumpy along the way. And so she's going to just kind of talk about how we got started, how things came about. And so, Mom, go ahead and take it away.
Well, if we were to go back to the very beginning, we'll have to go back to in the 80s. Dad and I got married in 75. Children came along, and in the 80s, he would just sit you all down. Sit down, sit down, sit down. And he would just begin to pour into you and just talk to you. And there were many times he would begin talking, I'd just roll my eyes. I'm like, oh, Lord, here comes lecture number 1,199.
Right, that's how we feel.
I remember you saying that kind of stuff.
Really, and I thought, my goodness, why won't he allow these children to go play? And he would just say, no, honey, I've got to talk to them. I've got to teach them. I've got to pour. Well, he didn't use the terminology, pour into you, but that's really what he meant. And he was telling you all the time what you were going to do and what you were going to be. He was instructing you on how to become a man. And he even told me that one time, you've never been a man. Let me show them how to be a man. Yeah. And I really appreciate that. And then, of course, over the years, as we began to do things together, and somebody would ask, you know, how do you have all of your children working together in ministry? And it was just our norm. I never thought about it being an anomaly, but it's just normal, because we had always worked together in ministry. And all of those years ago, when he started sitting you all down, talking to you, he wasn't even an ordained deacon at that time. He was just a brother in the church. Right. But he was telling you all then how the Lord was going to use you and what you were going to do in ministry. And it's just been wonderful, because not only, of course, are you guys in ministry, but each of you married wonderful women who are my
I know I did.
Yeah.
Listen.
Hey.
Yes, who are not, I've never thought of them as my daughters-in-law, but my daughters. And I feel like, and they can speak for themselves, but I feel like they think of me as a mom to them as well. So I'm just grateful for how the Lord has allowed us to all come together and work together. Not only, of course, in ministry, I'm thankful for that, thankful for your children who also work in ministry, but just that we come together and talk about things, issues on our hearts, and we try not to keep any deep secrets from each other. If there's something going on, we know how to discuss it. So I'm just grateful. That's how it began.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's how it began, but that's the good side of things. What was tell us the people some of the challenges up to when we started Sunday dinner? Because it's well documented that, like, everybody didn't necessarily get along and like each other, and there were issues along the way. That sounded real good. You're telling the good side, but tell us a little bit about, you don't go into detail, but tell us a little bit about
Put us all the way out tonight.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. Talk about that.
Well, there were times, of course, because in any family, and especially when you're bringing someone into the mix, you don't always know them. You don't always understand them. So it was a process of getting to know each other. One thing that I've said many times down through the years, you have to know a person's heart. You might say something to me that I don't necessarily like,
right,
or don't necessarily agree with,
right,
but when I've gotten to know you and I get to know your heart, I'll know that you didn't intend to hurt me. It hurt now. Hurt is hurt.
Right, right.
But just the fact that, we've learned how to get around that, how to manage that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I was gonna say, like, because I was the first one out the gate, right?
Right.
And being 19 and being married, and that was like a challenge beyond any challenge. My wife and I we were instant parents. We were both bullheaded, right? We both wanted it the way we wanted it, and I didn't care what you said. This is why I want it, and it caused for us to have a lot of hard days. One of the things that I really do appreciate about my parents is that although we did some dumb stuff, like we did some super, would you not agree?
Oh, I thought you was talking about y'all.
Oh, just us. We was the only one doing that.
No, you was the only one that thought that.
No dumb
We
stuff.
fully understood what you was talking about.
You understood?
Yes.
You understood?
No dumb stuff.
We did some super dumb stuff, and we had some hard roads along the way, and truthfully, we had people who tried to mentor us along the road. But I was just having this conversation the other day, Mom, with somebody, and they were talking about being filled with the Holy Ghost and how, they really want to be filled with the Holy Ghost. And I said to them, I vividly remember being saved as a young man. My wife and I, we just had a crazy road, but we got saved on the same night in the same revival. She's on the organ, I'm on the drums. They call us down to the altar. We get saved. But I really wanted that Holy Ghost experience. I really wanted to speak in tongues, and I danced and all that, but I really wanted that, like, give me that old time.
Power.
Yeah, I wanted some power, right? And so, but it was only until we got in the right environment, right, that we sitting at Mount Calvary one Sunday morning, and the presence and the power of God falls. I'm talking about before the building was refurbed, before, we had, scores of people coming in, whatever. And I'm sitting on the organ, and the presence of God falls, and I start speaking in tongues. I'm like, oh, yeah, like I'm really feeling this, right? Like I have to, like, continue to engage in the moment without allowing my conscious mind to pull me out of,
right.
Where I was. I said that to say that it was because we got into the right environment, right? It was because we were back in an environment that nurtured us for who we were to become, all these years later. And I sincerely appreciate the fact that the Lord allowed my wife and I to go down all these crazy roads, and having mom and dad there, especially on the front end, to really help us to manage when we didn't want to hear it.
Sure.
Listen, because mom would be like, "You gonna sit your behind down right here? You gonna listen to what I got to say?
Now,
I don't want to hear what you got to say.
let me add a little bit to this story, because so mom and dad were mom and dad.
Right.
Greg is off somewhere being Greg.
Right.
Mary's
with the
not
braids. With the
yet.
braids.
Right. Mary, we don't even know
Exactly.
Mary
Being
yet.
ratchet.
I haven't met my beautiful wife yet. But but I was watching y'all go through it.
Yeah, man.
Right? And I was watching how Daddy and Mama was managing y'all go through it.
Yeah, man.
And it was really, really tough.
Yeah.
But to you all's credit, I saw you all lovingly or struggling to love your children through their journey and being patient and being offended. Now, they still keeping it real pretty. It was ugly.
It was super ugly.
I mean, it was like,
It was super ugly.
I don't want to put them out there.
It was super ugly.
But it was like
It was
911 ugly,
It
right?
was super
But
ugly.
it was bad.
It was
All right.
super ugly.
And so
It was super
I
ugly.
watched you and Daddy just, be sad, be frustrated, be concerned, and recover. I saw you all emotionally and mentally recover, where you never gave up on your son.
Never.
And you were working through this thing over here called Tammy.
Right.
And what God was doing in her life.
Right.
And it was just, I say that to say it was.
Don't do my wife. Don't do my wife.
No.
Don't do my wife.
No, let me
God did a
explain
wonderful
now. Let me explain.
You did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
A wonderful job.
No, wonderful job. Tammy, we love you. Sis.
Tammy, listen,
Right.
Tammy is the MVP in this piece.
Right. And so, but it was marvelous to watch.
Yeah.
Painfully
Facts.
marvelous.
Facts.
Yeah.
For you to watch
Yeah.
as the youngest in the family. And so again, just kudos to you guys for sticking through it.
Yeah.
You both could have easily given up at
For
so
sure.
many different points.
For sure.
Right.
And then, Mom, you and Daddy could have just been like, don't come to my house no more.
No, listen, I
So-
want to say this, though. I got to say this because I think we haven't really talked about it enough a lot tonight. We're just kind of getting going. But, and I say this in all humbleness. I'm gonna say it like that.
Humility. There we go. No.
Yeah, humility.
All right.
Let's use that word. But I think of the three of us, I'm the one that beats the drum for Dad, right? Like that's my
That's your dude.
that's my dude,
Yes,
right?
you're the
You're
namesake.
junior.
You're the
Yeah,
namesake.
yeah,
So
like,
that would
I
make
got
That's
sense.
my dude.
Yeah.
And I tell people this all the time. And if y'all are watching, listen to what I'm about to tell y'all. Listen to what I'm about to tell y'all. If you have a father who loves you enough to invest the time in you
Facts.
and continuously invest the time in you. Daddy talked to us like Mama said, day in and day out when we were boys, right? But I saw my dad jump back into everyday fatherhood with me as an adult,
Sure. Yeah.
right? And he talked to me every single day to the point I saw him be like, Lord Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it weren't for that, right? If it weren't for that, we wouldn't be who we are. We wouldn't be able to be who we've been called to be. All those times with Mom and Dad up and down the road, from Miami to Fort Lauderdale to West Palm to Fort Pierce to Tampa to Memphis to St. Louis to anywhere and everywhere to Alabama, wherever we were going. Mom and Tammy in the back seat, me and Daddy up front. I'm driving, and he's talking to me like the whole drive. If we flying, he talking to me the whole flight.
He
Like
gonna
we having
talk to you.
Like
Yeah.
he's continuously just dropping nuggets. And I tell Mom all the time, like, the thing that impressed me the most about Dad is that he was able to teach what he couldn't always do.
Yeah, that's good.
Like,
But-
it was just intriguing to me.
We got another advocate here too. Obviously, he was in love with Mary.
Yeah, that
But
was
he
my
was
dude.
first in love with Tammy.
Hey, well,
let's
you
make
know.
sure we make that clear. Let's make sure we make that clear.
Do y'all
Hold
see
on,
the
I'm gonna
competition?
let my wife fight for
the
herself
loving
right there.
family competition here.
Because he hadn't met me yet, but as soon as he met me, it was his Mary.
Hey.
I think.
Um,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis. Well, what I was gonna say is like I think the main message and tonight, guys, for those of you all who are watching and viewing, this is not about us.
Right,
We're talking, but we're really trying to highlight things that have been a blessing to our family in hopes that it will be a blessing to your family. And so the thing that Mom, you and Dad did so well is y'all was just consistent.
Right.
Extremely consistent,
Right.
extremely stable, extremely grounded. Didn't matter what was going on in any of our lives individually.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't change. Y'all
Right.
didn't love us different.
Right.
You all patiently endure, and because you all modeled stability,
Right.
You taught us how to be stable when times get rocky. And certainly today, times are extremely rocky.
Extremely rocky. But we want to dive into a few more of these.
Let me say something first, because to Geremy's point about being consistent, I remember coming into the family as an outsider when I was dating, my good thing. And I remember coming over and visiting, and y'all was just always doing church. And I'm like, is this all y'all do?
I remember that question.
Come on,
all
man.
y'all do?
Saved, sanctified.
Filled with the Holy Ghost.
Holy Ghost
filled.
filled.
This was back in District Missionary, Pink Tea, getting stuff together.
Come on.
And like
Now, man.
all
Come
the
on.
time, this is all y'all will do.
Yeah, man.
But Mom, you mentioned it just being at the heart, and at the heart, you're a family that just loves ministry. And yeah, this is
That's what we do.
you did, and now what
We all
all
do.
of us
We
do.
do.
So
Yeah, so let's jump into these questions, man. We got some questions. Who got
Gary and Tammy, you got
Yeah.
number one? What was one
All
of
right,
those
so the first question is, why do you all seem to get along so well? So let me say this. This is not seem to get along so well. Like, let me be really, really clear. This is not seem to get along. This family, what you see of us is really what you get. We are very, very loving people. We love each other. Okay, so I'll give you a story. Let me give you a story. So like a short story.
Short story.
Okay,
60
so like,
seconds, 60
so okay, y'all not gonna do me tonight. I'm telling you. Oh no, for real. Okay, so Pastor Geremy is like, this is like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. He's got the black Ram, right? You got the Ram truck.
Yeah, the Dodge. Yeah,
the Dodge. The Ram gets towed. You remember this?
Yes, I remember this.
The Ram gets towed.
Yes.
And we have to track the truck down.
And I'm not Pastor Geremy in this situation.
Right, he is not Pastor Geremy in this
Geremy
situation.
is out the window because my truck just got towed.
Well, I was Pastor Gary in this situation, and I was still about to go get it because, like, it just doesn't matter. So we track the truck down, find where the truck is. Pastor Geremy now he and I go into this little hole in the wall establishment to go get his truck back, and the guy's talking like cash, trash. And I'm trying to be saved and sanctified and filled, but the only scripture that come to mind me is Matthew 11:12, the kingdom of heaven suffer violence.
man.
It wasn't a Holy Ghost moment.
Listen,
it wasn't
and
a Jesus moment.
the violent was about to take that bad boy by force. You hear me? The dude is talking all kind of trash to my brother. I'm trying to calm down, and I'm like, look, you're not gonna be talking to him, because the truth of the matter is that when we were kids, I was tasked with take care of your brothers. Yeah. Make sure they good. Don't let nobody bother with them. And if somebody come and get, you better go get them. That's what Gary Sr. taught us, right?
Well,
you
yeah.
better go get that.
Yeah.
So who we are and why we get along so well is because it's inbred in us.
Well, let me tell you another version of that story.
Talk to me.
So we do get along so well 99% of the time.
99% of the time.
95,
98,
85, 65% of the time.
We all right.
So let me tell you this. Y'all remember this recent story. So like most families, like most of you out there, we got a family chat. We got a family chat line.
Oh, yeah, tell this story.
So this was probably like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
This wasn't a long time ago. Maybe it was not even a year ago. Right. So something happened, which we ain't gonna talk about. Something happened. I'm on the chat line, just chatting away.
Going off.
Oh, he tried it, y'all.
Mean emojis.
Yeah, Pastor
Mean
Greg
emojis,
tried it. He tried
faces, everything.
He tried my whole life. But go ahead.
This
Go
joker
ahead.
called me. You ain't gonna talk to me like that. What makes you think you can talk to me like that? I'm like,
yeah.
whoa,
I
killer,
went all the way in on
killer,
him.
slow down.
All the way in.
Yeah, so, but no, we worked it out, and we get along.
It's because
how did you work
both
it
of
out?
them.
No, and that's a good question.
So let's talk about that. So let's talk.
It comes from a place of mutual respect.
Yeah, that's
Right.
first and foremost.
Mutual
So
respect.
the respect is mutual, and the expectation of one another being responsible, like ultimately, even in an irresponsible moment or irresponsible behavior, like my ultimate expectation of Greg, let's take the pastor out, right?
Greg,
Like Greg, my expectation of Gary and my sisters and my wife and my mother is to be responsible, right? And so in that moment, I felt like Greg was massively irresponsible in that moment, right? And so and I think, truth be told, like, I think the reason why I went so hard is because there was some other moment. You know how somebody, like, irresponsible for a while and then you let it ride?
So you feel like
Hold
the
on. Hold on. Let's talk real, right?
He give you for the old and the new, like
Right.
what Daddy was saying. He let it pile up.
Yeah, no, I 100% let it pile. I have been letting it slide. He has been saying some slick stuff, like, over a period of time, and I have been gracing him. And I'm like, okay, I'm just walking in Jesus' grace. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying nothing to him about it, I ain't addressing. I just like, okay, bruh on one today. You know, I'm like, but this time, like, you know what? That's it. So, 352, I'm calling him, right?
He about to get this.
Right. So I'll go all the way in. But in my going in, like, my expectation is still to be responsible and expect him to own it. I'm gonna be honest, he ain't really fully own it to the degree that I wanted him to own it in the moment.
Let me tell you this, and I'll say this to folks out there. People generally can take criticism from you in private.
Right.
But when there's an audience, that's what makes people
like
go over the edge, right?
Yeah, like
so if you have something to say to a family member, particularly like you don't like the way that they did something and the way that they said something, it's going to come off so much better if you just go to that person and talk to them.
No, 10,000%. And let me be very clear. The way, I probably hadn't come at Greg that hard since I was a kid, right? So the way I came at him in private, like, I would never handle you like that in public. Like, I would never address you like that, right? So, but we had the conversation, and here's even the more interesting part, right? So I said my piece, he said his piece. You know, it wasn't even about him. Like, I just needed to get it off my chest, right? And so he felt the way he felt. I felt the way I felt. Truth be told, we never fully came to an agreement. It was like, well, I see it like this, I see it like this, da-da-da. He never owned it. Whatever, it's all good. Right?
And he's still carrying it today.
No, I don't carry it.
No, I'm just kidding.
So
we was good. Like,
yeah, we was definitely
good.
good. We was definitely
But
good.
the question was, can you repeat that question, Pastor?
The question
We have
was,
a question about this agreement.
why do you all seem to get along
and the truth
so
is,
well?
and this is what I was going to say, I think the reason why we get along so well and why the way you would want to be able to get along so well with your family is deal from a place of mutual respect.
Right.
Because if respect is there, now people have this misconception that people just gonna give you respect. No, you gotta earn people's respect.
Right.
And so when you dealing from a place of mutual respect, all of these people up here bring something to our family that we all truly respect.
Right.
And when it's from a place of genuine respect, I think that's why, in general, we get along so well. It's not just because you're my brother or you're my sister or you're my mama, but you do things that force me to respect you.
But I think because of the family dynamic, and I can only speak for our family, I think because of the family dynamic, the way we were raised, that you're gonna get that general pass anyway, right? I love you and I respect you first and foremost because we carry the same DNA, right? And because we carry the same DNA, we're going to automatically give you. Now, what ends up happening is I believe that over time, as we grow and we mature and we become men, right? And we start to have we begin to see those different inflection points in our personalities. We do allow for each other to be who we need to be, and we don't necessarily crucify each other because my two brothers argue and I don't.
Right.
You know I had to get them. Because
That's not true. We grace Gary a lot as well. So, but to your point, I think it's true because, yes, we love God and yes, we are saved and, yes, we are family. But someone said this quote to me just today, that if you act like somebody, you'll be treated like you're somebody.
that's true.
And so I think so much of the way we interact with one another is that general respect because you all carry yourselves, we all carry ourselves respectfully.
Right.
And, if I was always dealing with Gary as my brother and you were behaving disrespectfully, whether in my direction or just in general, then not that I would disrespect you, but I wouldn't have the same level of relationship and deference for you, even in moments where I feel like you made a bad choice in that moment.
So let's talk about this, right? Because I know we can kind of go on and on, but let's talk about this. So my brothers and I last night had a conversation, right? I'm sorry. All right, but not really.
I'd love to hear from Pastor Tammy.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to give her the mic. So, but my brothers and I had a conversation last night. We were talking, and the conversation initiated over text, right? So as the conversation initiated over text, I misunderstood something that Pastor Geremy said. So I was like, bruh, I know you were tripping.
Right.
And he was like, no, I think you misunderstood. And I was like, nah, bruh, you are really tripping. So we actually got on a three-way call, and we were able to talk that thing out, only to realize that we were saying the same thing, right? Yeah. We were saying it from a different angle, but it was because I respected him enough to challenge what he said and then give him the opportunity to come back and say, no, this is what I really meant, and take what he said at face value, right? Because I respect him as a person, right?
Facts. Let's get to the next question.
Next question. What are strategies to not just be family that love each other, but actually like each other? I think that's inbred.
Wait, say that again. Ask the question again. You moved kind of quick.
So what are strategies to not just be families that love each other, but actually like each other?
Right. This is for yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking why everybody else's nails look better than mine.
I had to polish mine at home myself, because y'all know Corona and the nail shop closed. I had to, personally handle that before I was on TV tonight.
I'm like,
so not just love each other, but like each other. Like, what's some of the things you can do to make sure that that's happening?
So what are some strategies to not just be families that love each other, but actually like each other? I think that comes with spending time with each other. I just think it comes with, you have to be intentional about the time, and Pastor Greg said it from the beginning that, before Pastor Geremy went to a 2:00 service, and I talk about that all the time because I like to eat as a family. We used to eat Sunday dinner together, and that's when we got together and not just talked about church, but Mary would make sure that we would talk about other things as well. So, I would encourage you, especially during this time that we are forced to be in the house, to spend time with your family, to get to know them, to see what they like. I have seen different things on social media where people are asking each other questions about what they like. How about ask each other in your family what they like to eat, what's their favorite color, because we get, in the hustle and bustle of things, and sometimes we forget who each other, who you are and who my husband is or who your children are. So I think this is a good time to get to know each other, and as you get to know each other, you'll start liking them. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you and I kind of got a little closer. You had a job where you had to travel. So she used to be in the car driving, and she used to call me. You run out of people to call. She was like, oh, let me call. Let me go down my list and see who else I can call. And she would call me, and, we would chat it up, and you just get to know things about each other that you don't see when you're just kind of talking ministry or talking, other things. So definitely spending time together.
I have a close friend who's a therapist, and he gave me a wonderful quote in regards to relationships. And he said it very simply that time spent is relationship built. Time spent is relationship built. And the more you spend time with family or anyone, could be work in the work environment, you're going to build some relationship, but you have to invest the time. And in the midst of a coronavirus outbreak, we tend to have more time on our hands. So hopefully, we're spending it, not just on our laptops in our offices, on the elliptical or whatever, but really spending time with one another.
Another strategy that we should use, and it just seems basic to most of us, but not to all of us, and that is just to embrace the differences. There are 7 of us sitting around here, sitting on this set. All of us are different.
Way different.
Every one of us. But because we have learned to embrace each other's differences, that is one of the major things that has brought us even closer together and caused us to like each other. No, we don't think alike. We wouldn't do things exactly alike, but I respect you in what you've chosen to do, how you choose to raise your children, how you've raised yours, how you raise yours. I respect that. So I think really learning how to embrace each other's differences makes a difference.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think oftentimes in family, you're trying to change people to be like you. Right. And what we've tried to do, we don't always get it right, and what obviously you could do if you're watching this, is let people be themselves.
Absolutely.
Like,
100%.
stop trying to make people a carbon copy of you. It's not going to work out anyway. Right? And so I think that's super important, and that's part of the liking process. Let me get to figure out what you like, do some of the things you like, just like we'll get together, the menu.
Like going to Top Golf, Mom.
Right, exactly.
I went once.
You got to keep it. I ain't going back. So, doing some of the things. Right, doing some of the things they like, and so that's super important.
Let me go back to what I said, because from the beginning I said it. I think some of those things are inbred. Let me give clarity to what I mean by that. For us, for my brothers and I, it was engrafted in us that we were gonna stick together. Right. There was no question.
That was nurture. That wasn't nature, but it was definitely.
It was nurture, right?
Yeah.
And so, what I meant by that was, because I want to make sure that I'm clear. There's certain things that you have to raise up in your children, and you can't wait for them to become adults, or you can't even really wait for them to become teenagers or
Very true.
adolescents. Yeah. Right, you have to put that in them when the Bible tells us to raise up a child in the way they should go, train up a child in the way they should go. So that's what I meant when I said some of that stuff is inbred in you. You got to put that stuff in those kids early. Right. For me to stick up for my brothers, for us to stick up together all those days in Edgewater. Mm-hmm. you know what I mean?
Let me pose this question.
These were things that came up in us. Right.
What about the family? Right, because it don't always happen. There are so many
dynamics.
Yeah, situations that people are brought up in. What about, like, now we're 20, now we're 25, now we're 30. Like, is there a way that any of you would say would be a way that you can kind of build that relationship with your family member who is either hard to get along with, hard to like, you know what I mean, always talking sideways or doing stuff that's crazy? Like,
I think one of the things you have to do is learn how to love people where they are on the level that they're on. Not to say that you're on a higher level or that you're on a lower level. We're just all at different places. And so if I can be patient, if I can be understanding, and if it's only 15 minutes, we're going to enjoy these 15 minutes.
Right.
If 15 minutes is all I can do in the room with you, then we're going to make this quality time. And then you grow from there, but you still have to spend the time, and you still have to understand that, as you said, that they are not who you are, and that just like you want people to be patient with your flaws, and that's something that really gets under my skin. When people get amnesia about, like, wait a minute, you were a stone cold mess. Like, wait a minute, like, you had all kind of problems, and people were patient with you.
Right.
And then you don't want to, give that patience back. Reciprocate that patience. And so we have to be patient with one another, because each and every one of us sitting up here has ways. Yeah. And we know what those ways are.
Right.
And we endure each other through our ways.
That's for sure.
So I want to remind people, if you have questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments. We have this here. One person said, we haven't heard from Ricquita, Pastor Ricquita Salter tonight. Give her the mic.
So let me first say, this is
give
very.
Her the mic. It's
hold on. Let me say, I handed her the mic.
Right.
And she said to me, I don't have anything to say, which is very consistent in our family. That's our family culture. Like, we all do the talking, and my wife is going to be the last somebody to say whatever she got to say. But once she start talking, you clearly know Ricquita is talking, and she has something to say.
Shut up and listen.
Yes,
Right.
It's gonna be good.
So-
It's gonna be good.
Basically, right? We was just on a conference call a couple nights ago, and she had something to say, and it didn't matter. Shut up and listen.
Shut up and
right? So we have a question, baby. You got something you want to go into right now?
She might need a mic.
Yes, sis.
I don't have a question. I mean, well, unless, am I asking this right here?
You can. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Just to ride on what everyone else was saying, it is just so important to love one another, and it's so important to love God. What helps you to love everybody
Come on in here.
and to
Come
love
on in here.
yourself is to love God.
Come on in here. Come on.
All right?
Drop your cash
Yes.
app so they can send you some money on that word you just preached right there.
$. I'm just Don't get me going now. All right. However, our question is, how do you settle disagreements?
Ooh.
How do you fight fair when dealing with conflicts?
Wow.
We
good
We don't
question.
ever disagree.
Right, never.
Wow, man. That's a. I think for us, the way we settle disagreement. The way we settle disagreement is just a lot of
Do
other
you like
person.
me?
I know, right?
Do you want to tell that story? I think you should tell that story, Pastor
What?
Ricquita. You should tell that story.
What that was?
How you was feeling and what you put on the chat line.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. It's not that much. However, I had a situation with someone, and they didn't agree with what I said or what I did, and so I began to think, who else don't agree with what I do and what I said? So there's too much going on in the world today. So I want to make sure that I live right the
Come
best
on
way
now.
I can
Come on.
right now.
Come on now.
So I want to, and if there's any problems or issues that anybody within my family has something going on with me, that they have a disagreement with me, I want to get it right now, and not wait. So I sent out a text. And I asked, does anybody not like, what did I say?
Anybody got a problem with me?
Anybody got a
Anybody
problem with
got
me?
a problem with me?
Random.
Does
Just
anybody
random
got
out
a
the
problem
blue.
with me? Nobody said nothing. So it's good. So
Because we were like, what is she talking about?
We don't know what's going on.
And it had nothing to do with them. It
Right.
was just me. But I
Right.
just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, and I think the way we try to tackle that when you talk about being handling disagreements is sometimes we just agree to disagree. And I've become definitely in life more comfortable with that, with my brothers, my sister, even my mama. Sometimes we just disagree, and but that don't change the relationship just because I disagree with you. You know what I mean?
Okay. I was gonna say, before you get to that point where you agree to disagree, I think communication is key. Like when what Ricquita did was reach out and say, if y'all got a problem with me, let's talk about it. Geremy reached out to Greg. I got a problem with you. Let's talk about it. So we, a lot of times we sweep things under the rug, or as families, we don't bring things to the light, or we dismiss it and say, oh, that's just the way they are, or that's how they always been. But that doesn't mean they have to stay that way. So if you just communicate and kind of put things out there and let people know, I feel some kind of way about what you said or what you did, rather than maybe running and walking away and sweeping it under the rug, but bringing up those issues and shedding light on them and then talking about them is how they can get
I think
work
one of
through.
the things too, I'm sorry, Mama. I cut you off and I saw Greg's eyes getting big. Go ahead, Ma.
I just want to say this. One of the things that the Lord gave me within this family is almost everybody talks to me about their problems.
She ain't communicated
Bang,
that, y'all. She ain't communicated
Shots
that.
fired.
She done said that right now. She ain't never told me that, y'all.
Boom.
She ain't told me that before.
Listen, stop it. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
Looked over there
She
like,
did. I looked over there because I did. I looked over there at Mary because Mary knows how to self-correct. She knows how to, that's all. That was not a slight on Mary. It really was not.
So don't nobody else know how to self-correct?
Anyway, y'all,
Just me.
Problem.
as I was
playing.
about
I'm
to
playing.
say, one of the things the Lord gave me when we've had major problems, and sometimes we've had some major problems. We're not going to sweep that under the rug either, as you have already said. But we have a lemon squeeze. We come together and we talk about it. We say, listen, you said this, and I didn't like the way you said that, and you said that, and I didn't like. So we get together as a family. We almost talk about everything. There's very little that we don't talk about. And but whenever there's a problem, we just talk about it, because the one thing that we're not going to do, as far as I'm concerned, especially as the matriarch of this family, we are not going to dislike each other.
Right. So
we are not going to not
go ahead,
get
Tammy.
along.
Right.
We are not going to not be able to work together.
Sure.
We're going to have to get this thing straight. Whatever it is, we're going to talk about it. Go
And
ahead.
how Mom starts that out is, we're not going to be at the altar. And somebody say, y'all don't like each other. So y'all better get this right now.
I think.
But you know what, though? Let me just say this right quick before you get going. Because she talked about us having the lemon squeeze, and we do. But I think one of the things that I think needs to be really highlighted is that session is not intended to come and complain. It's intended to come and correct.
Absolutely.
Right?
It is that you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So that we can, whatever the disagreement is, whatever
Right.
the problem is, that we can get it straight.
Right.
I think that goes back to the respect piece. But one of the things that is critical in the family environment, me and my wife practice this in our marriage as best we can. We're not perfect at it, but it's forgiving quickly, right?
Yeah.
And that's so critical. So we've been talking a lot lately, right? I don't know if it's the coronavirus or what, but me, Gary, and Greg, we was on a call, and man, we had something crazy happen. I mean, crazy happen.
Right.
I mean, outrageous happen.
Right.
And it wasn't in between the three of us, but it certainly affected our family.
Sure.
In a massive way. And I was feeling all type of ways about it. And, I'm not always the most emoting of the three of us. It just depends. Like, we're all passionate about different things at different times. But when it's my turn, it's my turn. And yesterday was my turn.
It was your turn for sure.
And but it was legit. It was like a real thing.
Right.
And so I was massively upset about it. I had a conversation with my wife about it first. Then I had a conversation with my mom about it. Then I had a conversation with my brothers about it on three-way. But I told my wife, I said it this way jokingly, but I meant it, I'm not going to hell for nobody.
Right.
Meaning,
Facts.
I'm not carrying unforgiveness and anger in my heart against anybody.
Right.
And so I said that to my wife. Then I was still hot about it. And when I talked to Mom about it, she was like, son, you got to let this thing go.
Yeah, man.
And I said, oh, don't worry. I got to the sun go down. It was about 7 o'clock when we having this conversation. I'm like, I got to the sun go down.
Right.
And by the time I talked to my brothers well into the evening, it was 10,
It was
11
late.
o'clock.
Yeah, it was late.
We
Real
was
late.
talking about it.
Yeah.
I was on my way.
You was
I was seething still,
Right.
but it was settling.
Right.
And so, but I woke up this morning and I was good because I really meant in my heart that I was not going to. I thought about it this morning now.
but you weren't carrying it like you
I
was the
wasn't
day
carrying
before.
it. And so in families, when dealing with family, you have to forgive quickly, right? The Bible says don't let the sun go down on your wrath.
Right.
And so that has to be the mentality.
Let's get to the next question because we're running out of
Well,
time.
actually, along the same lines, we have a question from the audience. It says, so how do you approach family members who may not know how to respond to a situation without blowing things out of proportion, or who never feel like they do anything wrong? They always right. They ain't never wrong, or they blow things out of
That's a
proportion.
real thing.
How do you approach those type of family members?
I think you have to ask them questions instead of make definitive, hard statements to people like that.
That's a great point. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So you can't be, when you're talking to those type of folks, you can't be accusatory. You kind of have to let them go on this journey of self-discovery, right? So you can ask them questions, but then more than anything, you can tell them, if that's not working, if you're asking questions, you can at least say, well, this is how it made me feel. So you could talk about your intention all day. If you felt like you was wrong, or if you didn't feel like you was wrong, I can't make you see that all the time, but I can definitely tell you how it made me feel, right? Because Maya Angelou, she famously said, people may forget what you said or whatever, but they'll always, right. But they'll always remember how you made them feel. And so the best thing that you can do, one of the things you can do, I'll put it that way, one of the things that you could do is just let them know that how their behavior is affecting you more than anything else. And then give them an opportunity to clear it up. And some people, they trying to, make you mad, trying to hurt you or whatever the case may be, trying to belittle you. And, you don't have to subject yourself to that from nobody, in 100%. My opinion. 100%. So family or not, blood related or not, you don't have to subject yourself to that. But if people truly love you, respect you, care about you, when you telling them, well, that's maybe not what you meant, but this is how it's making me feel, then they'll try their best, I think, to make some changes.
I think also sometimes you just got to have somebody mediate. Yeah. Sometimes you got to get a third party in that is non-biased, that both people respect and will listen to their voice, and then try to see if you can come to some type of understanding that way. That's not always as easy, right? Because it kind of puts the other person in a position where they have to be willing to take some ownership, and people aren't always willing to do that. But for the people who are, having a third party, non-biased person can be helpful.
Yeah, the person who ain't got no dog in the race. Yep. Exactly.
It's really good. Great question, guys.
Great question, yeah,
right,
for sure.
Anybody else on that? All right, so we'll go to this next question I have here. It says, what are some things that you all do to capitalize on each other's strengths and skill sets rather than seeing those as threats or feeling intimidated by maybe the skills that the other person has?
I love this question because when you're thinking about family, you got to remember that you're all on the same team.
100%. Yep.
So when you're thinking about trying to conquer life, like the people who are in your family, y'all should be working together. I think about it when I think about us, like certain things that I may need in life, I'm going to call different people in our family group to talk to them about it. It's not because those other people don't have any value, but this person particularly right here has this skill set, whether it be business, whether it be credit, whether it be family, whether it be ministry, almost everything that you need in your life. I'll put it in your circle. I'll put yes. God made sure it's in your family somewhere.
Right.
Or if you don't have a lot of family, it's within the people that are like family to you.
Right.
And so one of the things that, you can do is really say, let me find a way to really learn from them so there is no competition or anything like that. Glean from them, because it's only going to make my life better.
And I think it's important. You cannot learn from people that you don't value. Right. If I don't value you, I can't receive from you, right? And if I don't value you, you're probably not going to give me what you have anyway, even though I need it, because you're not going to value it because of the package it comes wrapped in. And so it does come back to the respect. I think all of us value each one another's. Thank you. I get tongue-tied. One another's skill set and ability. But it also, you have to know the people. You have to spend time. Like I was talking to someone on the way here, and they were telling me about how they're doing investing and they're doing some other things that other people don't even know to the degree that they're doing it. And they have to limit how much of it they share, because if they share too much, the people that are closest to them could become potentially intimidated by it. Right. And so what that means is the people that are around this individual don't get the full benefit of what this person has to bring to the table.
Right.
I'll even say this too. I think, Greg, you kind of alluded to it with saying that you have the people around you already in your family. One of the things that we've done that's really made our family successful in this area is that we've built what we have around the skill sets that everybody has.
Sure.
Very true.
Right?
Very
Like we didn't try to go do something outside of the skill set that we had in the family, right? Mom talks about it quite a bit, that within the confine of our DNA and our family, God has really virtually given us everything that we could possibly need almost, right? So
Almost, yeah.
whether you talk about, sound or video or graphics or singing or preaching or business or what, God has been good to us. He's given us this type of thing within our family structure. So I think for the person who asked the question, it may be imperative for them in their family to build the infrastructure around the skill sets of the people who are right around them. I mean, because if you're trying to make me be what I'm not, you're gonna frustrate me, right? But if you allow me to be who I am and then allow who I am to be a blessing to you, it makes all the difference in the world.
I just wanted to interject this because it talked about being intimidated or threatened by, those. I just want to go back to Dad.
Mm-hmm.
He, to me, was a great pastor. And I'm not throwing him under the bus when I say, but he wasn't the greatest preacher.
Right.
You all know that. He
Right.
wasn't the greatest preacher, but he was a great pastor.
Right.
But it always made me respect and honor him so much because he was not threatened
Right.
by the gifts of his sons
That's a
or
great
my
point.
gift.
Right.
He always pushed us. He always encouraged. I always said about him that he was my greatest cheerleader.
Right.
So it wasn't because he didn't operate that way, then he was able to model that for you. And
Right.
you may not even understood that that's where it was coming from,
Right.
from his example, that, he just wasn't threatened by the gifts of those around him.
He would correct the gifts, though.
Absolutely.
Listen,
That joker told me I needed to come and apologize before the whole church. I'm like, wow, I did that at the high. What? But anyway.
no, hold on.
No,
You got to let me
story.
tell this.
I didn't know that.
So one Sunday I'm getting ready to preach at Mount Calvary, and he gets up to kind of set the stage. So he said, I'm not the preacher today. I'm not the preacher today, but we got a preacher in the house, and he ain't gonna get up here with all them big words that don't nobody understand. That was so funny. I'm like, no, he didn't just throw me under the bus. He's like,
I ain't even said nothing yet.
Right, I ain't even said nothing yet. Like he ain't even give me a
Because
chance.
he knew you.
to say
He
no.
knew
Right,
you
he
so
knew.
well.
He was like,
He knew
he
you
ain't gonna get
so
up here with all them
well.
big words that don't nobody understand. He gonna preach the way. I'm like, Lord Jesus. I was like, I had to get up and say like, Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow.
Come on,
I mean, but he definitely did push, us to be the best version of ourselves, right?
Sure.
And become who we've been purposed and called to become. So I absolutely amen you.
Well, what we got next?
All right, so we have another question from the audience, and we're going back to kind of disagreement. That seems to be a hot topic tonight. And it said, when you disagree with some people, they think you're betraying them, especially people in your
That's very
family. Sometimes when
good.
you disagree, it's seen as betrayal. So how do you manage those family members who feel like they're being betrayed when you don't necessarily agree with what they have to say or what they're doing?
This is a conversation that I think, to some degree, every person in any type of relationship will struggle with, right? Whether it's a working relationship, a marital relationship, a business relationship, a friendship, even ministry relationships. And it's a conversation that my wife and I have talked about, that, just because she disagrees with the idea doesn't mean she disagrees with me.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so we have to be able to separate not valuing the idea from not valuing the person.
Right.
And so when you can make that delineation that, it was just the idea, or it was just, that particular instance that I didn't like or that I didn't value, but I do value you. And I think if you show that over time on the front end, hopefully before disagreements even happen, and then you're consistent with that over time, then you can have a healthy relationship. And I think you also have to understand that when people respond in that manner, that, oh, you disagree with me, so you don't like me, it's because there's something going on with them
Right. It ain't
on
got
the
nothing-
inside
Right.
that you have to be patient with, right?
Right, yeah.
And you have to, that don't even mean you call them out or like, you just in your feelings.
Right,
Sometimes people do that because
Right.
we're being careless.
Right.
But just understand and patiently love them and explain no, I love you. It was just, I don't think that was the best idea that came up.
Man.
And then go from there.
Yeah, one of the things I love, one of the greatest things I love about not only my family circle, but my friend circle is that we disagree all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And, an immature person, what?
Loudly disagree.
Loudly disagree, right. An immature person will misinterpret that, right? But it's really what helps to sharpen and hone who you are as an individual. Sometimes you'll learn that, man, I was thinking crazy. I was way out there on that. Or sometimes you'll be like, yeah, it's
But somebody who's not healed will think, she thinks she always right.
Right.
He think he always right. No, I
Right.
just have an opinion.
Right.
This is my perspective, and I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, present better facts.
Right.
Because we're having a factual conversation. It's not to discredit you or devalue you.
Yeah.
Because if you think I think I'm always right, now you're going to feel a way about me that I wasn't even trying to communicate. But,
you shouldn't even really be kicking it with people that you can't disagree with. Family or friends.
Very true.
You should not, because if you gotta be in a relationship, any type of relationship, with somebody where everything they do you gotta ride with, you're gonna end up you're gonna end up dead around here or doing something ignorant.
So I think
right?
that's worth saying that in a couple relationship, I have the right, you have the right to disagree with me.
Facts.
And I still love you, you still love me. In a ministry relationship, in a expanded family dynamic, like, it's okay for me to disagree or for you to disagree, and we still love one another. And I think that you gotta give people permission to do that and have that permission in the relationship.
That's so good. I do this, and I'll call you guys. I'll call somebody, a friend of mine or one of y'all, and be like, look, I got this idea. This is what I want to do. Poke holes in it, right? Tell me why this won't work. And if you can poke holes in it and tell me why it don't work, then that gives me something else to think about, right? And that gives me the opportunity to go back to the drawing board and be like, you know what? I can make this better. I can make this more efficient. I can do this better in my relationship, whatever it is. So I would say to that person who asked that question, like, do everything that Geremy said to do. Like, let them know that, look, I value you as a person, but if you really want us to have a good relationship, you gotta allow me to be able to tell you when I disagree. I might find out I'm right. I might find out when I'm wrong, but you gotta give me the latitude to say, nah, I don't think so. So.
All right, very good. So our time has almost come to a close. So we have one more question that we're gonna ask this evening. It's gonna come from our matriarch. What you got?
The question says, what are some of your individual family values, and how do they contribute to the success of your church or your churches? How do our individual family values, what are they, and how do they contribute to the success of the church?
I think the number one, and everyone may have obviously a different opinion, but I think the number one values, the core value system that we have as individuals, as individual families, as a church, is consistency. We are always the same, right? It doesn't matter what's going on in our lives. Not all of us have traumatic events where, we may have a down day, but generally speaking, we are very consistent. And that consistency and that stability is what I believe allows our families to be sustained and to thrive, and the way God has graced our churches through the challenges that we've had in our churches. Like every other church has challenges, because the leadership is consistent.
I agree with that. I think one of the other things that I love to quote this, we say it quite a bit, that in the absence of information, people make up stuff.
Facts.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it's highly important that we communicate. I think that's one of the things that really helps us a lot, is that we talk all the time. We talk quite a bit. And even with as much as we do talk, like we've talked about it, like we could be better in a lot of areas, right?
No question.
And I do agree with you that, here lately things have, like, we've really, really, really gotten better. Like, we talk a whole lot more, and I love it. Because the last thing you want somebody to do is talk for you, right? The last thing you want them to do is be saying, hey, you know what, I think he feels like this. Nah, bruh, let me tell you how I feel for myself.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right,
So that
right,
there's no gray area. So communicate with the people around you and be truthful in the communication that you have, so that when you go back to it again, you don't have to try to remember what you said. Just be truthful with yourself.
Right.
You felt that one, sis?
Yeah, I felt that one.
Yeah.
Don't be lying.
Don't be lying. Come
Right.
on, don't be
Tell
lying.
the truth.
I think one of the things that's important to remember, and we're wrapping this up, but that values and beliefs are not the same thing, right? So as long as you got people in your family that kind of have the same baseline value, they value truth, they value honesty, they value integrity. Things like that. You know, your beliefs, what you believe, you know, if you just think back 5 years ago, what you believed about certain things have probably changed. But if you have people in your family, if you develop a culture where, my wife just, thank you, babe. If you value a culture where, you know, you kind of got that baseline and let people believe, change and grow and evolve is really where I was going, evolve as human beings, then I think everything will be all right.
Really, integrity is a huge piece. When we were having a conversation last night in my, I won't call it rage, but in my disgust about this situation,
Complete disdain.
yeah, we were having the conversation about integrity, and I made the statement on the line that, you know, most people think churches are built on the stage,
Right.
on the platform.
Right.
And I said, that's not where your reputation is built and where churches are built. Churches are built in the back office.
Sure. For
And
sure.
the decisions that are made and how people are treated and how people interact. And though we are a mega ministry, we do right in business.
Right.
And we do right in how we treat people with integrity.
Right.
The check's clear, glory, hallelujah.
Come on.
right.
Come
You know,
on. They all clear.
They
Hallelujah.
all clear.
They all clear.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we're just honest and we're
Right.
real and we're genuine. And I think that's critical for any family.
I think to layer on top of that, we're also transparent. So we value, you know, being transparent with one another. And you know, we kind of ragged on Gary and Tammy at the beginning about what you went through. But y'all already know what they went through because they're transparent about their journey and about
Very
their
true.
struggle. So as we talk and share with each other, and we're also transparent with our churches, I think it just helps build that rapport and that growth.
Well, we want to thank all of y'all for tuning in
Appreciate you.
today, tonight. Obviously, you know, we really appreciate your time. You didn't have to, and hopefully we can bring you more, more Sunday dinners like this. We appreciate you. God love you. God
Some
bless
real
you.
food. With some real food.
Love you
Yeah,
so
with some-
much.
some
Thank
real
you all
food.
so much.
Wash your hands.
Wash your
God bless
hands,
y'all.
man.
God bless.
Wash
Social
your
distance.
hands.